What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the JP Podcast. Today we have John Petrelli. I got it. The Italian from New York to LA to Texas. Trainer, 30 years in Hollywood. Book here, Confessions of a Hollywood Trainer. And as I'm going through the book the other day, stories of how he grew up, and I asked John, I said, hey, what's the main message you want people to get from this? And it's hope, resilience, and that you can make a lot of mistakes in life, and still it's part of who you are. And sharing those to encourage and inspire other people. You recently did a TED Talk, and that was at a school, correct?
Yeah, it was in upstate New York where I grew up.
That's so powerful, man, to be able to go back to where you grew up and give a message there. Yeah. So we're going to jump into it today. We had a conversation prior to hitting record that's emotional. I had to go over here and get napkins, blow my nose. I'm about to start crying. Powerful story that we're going to get into. I think you're going to be extremely inspired. So, John, thank you for being with us today, brother.
Man, I'm honored.
Thank you.
Honored, man. I was listening to your podcast ahead of time, your last episode, and I was like, I got to talk with this guy. There's a lot of stuff that I feel a connection with. I love your passion and the message you're delivering. That's great.
We wanted to start this. I'm a super private person, and I don't like large groups of people. I end up getting involved in the insurance business where we have hundreds of agents, thousands of agents. We're around clients. We're around completely opposite of my personality and my preference. And then we started doing social media this year, and then we started podcasts. And I'm like, man, I don't really like doing a lot of this. I'm a private person, and one of the things I've loved the most is this podcast. Because there's so many great people that you just can't walk up to on the stream like, what's your story? And these relationships that I've gotten a chance to build with guests that have come onto the show, they're becoming like friendships outside of the podcast. And it's such a nice way of meeting people that have chosen to fight in their life to be better human beings. And I think all of us are capable of that, but we need inspiration and we need people around us. And you're encouraging so many people that you come into contact with through your book, through your story, through who you are. Just I can feel the genuineness of who you are. So thank you for being on. So for people that don't know you, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you came to this point of your life.
Yeah, so I appreciate the question. I'm 52 years old now, but I started getting into fitness and health when I was in my teens. And I ended up moving under precarious circumstances from upstate New York to California. Ended up being a trainer back in 1995. No, before that, it was like 1992. I took my trainer test when there was like one test to take a trainer test. And when they mailed you the results and you waited, now it's like email. And I follow my passion of helping people. And I got outside of my comfort zone. I got outside of my peer group. I don't know if we get into it, but I got in a bunch of trouble beforehand. And I had to separate myself and kind of start my own journey and find who I was. And so over 30 years, I've been blessed to work with so many people. They have taken me on as family, and I've been on this journey with them as they get healthier, and they teach me about them. And I got to work with athletes. I've got to work with celebrities. I'm currently one of the people that are in the book is a dear friend of mine, Sebastian Maniscalco. He's one of the best stand-up comics in the world. And we met under unique circumstances, and I just, read the book a little bit. It's this is where I'm at now. So now I live in Austin, Texas.
And so when we were talking, I asked you what got you into fitness, and you shared you were 4'8".
4'11". Nobody made me shorter.
Your mom. So you're 4'11".
As a freshman in high school.
In high school.
Yeah.
And you go to 6 foot over that 1 year. So now you're thin. You're like, man, I got to start working out. You talked about your father who had you at 50.
Yep.
And he had been through 3 different wars.
Yes, sir.
You said World War II.
Yep.
Korea.
And Vietnam.
And you're the second of 3. So you're raised in this Italian family in New York with a soldier, as a father. And then from there, in the book, you start talking. It starts off with like how you're a troublemaker. You get into a bad situation, get into a fight, and somebody almost dies.
Correct.
And then from there, another situation, and that's kind of how you led to moving to California.
Yep.
But you were already in fitness, and I think you said you started in fitness at 14.
Right around there, yeah. Being a little kid with a big mouth, on top of being 4'11", my mom still cut my hair at that point. I had a very handsome bowl cut and a fresh face of acne. Like I say, I don't know how all the boy bands weren't scooping me up at that point. And so I went into the gym. I'm trying to transform my body, and that was the only way I knew how at that point, right, to make a transformation. And so, yeah, I got into fitness at that age, around 14. Got into martial arts around that time, too. And then I had my trajectory when I went from New York to California. Yeah.
So the fitness and the competition, the martial arts, right? What drove you to want to do that? Was it? I know we talked a little about it, but what drove you to want to do that? Was it safety? Was it you wanted to do something where you can compete? Was it pride?
It was all of those things. It was all. Oh man, we talked a little bit off air, and I don't begrudge anybody. Listen, we're going to talk about my dad a little bit. He had the tools he had for the time in his lifetime and everything. And so, just to give you perspective, I go to every one of my kids' soccer games, baseball games. I try to do everything I can, right? That's just who I am right now. My dad, I had my first bodybuilding competition, and he didn't even go. He didn't show up. I was amazing at soccer. It was one of the few sports I could play. Being small, I was fast. And they never came to one game. And even though I led the league in scoring, and we won the district, we won the championship. And so as a kid, unbeknownst to me, I was crying out for attention. And so I think a lot of that, the drive was, man, I just want to get my dad's attention and him to love me. I didn't feel loved. And so that's how it was really a driving factor behind a lot of reps and sets and time and sweat and all of that.
It's powerful, the motivation, because I think a lot of young men, I know for me, I wanted my dad to be proud of me.
Yeah.
So you're like, I want to do this for that person to be proud of me because I want that affection from another, from a man, from your father. And it's powerful how that lack of could lead to such an internal drive to want to prove a point or want to make somebody proud or whatnot. So you get in trouble and you leave New York. At this point, somebody, you get into a fight, whatnot, somebody pulls a gun on you, and they say, the next time I see you,
you're dead.
I'm going to kill you.
Yep.
So you're like, if I keep going down this route, I may be dead or in jail.
Yeah. And a year prior, the fight I get into, I see somebody is going to punch my friend in the face. Without thinking, at 18, I push my friend out of the way. I kick this guy square in the face as hard as I can. In a split second, his head cracks open against the concrete curb. There's a huge group of people in the streets, and somebody grabs me from behind, and I don't know it's an undercover cop. And I turn around to punch that person, and I have a handcuff on my wrist. I get slammed down to the ground. I go get processed, go to jail. This is life-changing for me. I can't take it back, but for so many years I hid it. But I think now, if that doesn't happen, maybe I continue down a path where that person ends up surviving, right, by the grace of God.
Because you were in jail, you didn't know if the person
survived. Yeah, I watched that person laying on the ground for what seems like an eternity, and they try to revive him. The police try to revive him. Then the ambulance comes, the fire department. He's still unconscious on the ground while I'm in the paddy wagon and sitting there praying, right? And selfishly praying for myself, man, I hope this guy doesn't die because I'm going to be in prison. I'm going to be embarrassed, all this, not thinking about him at that point. And I get processed. One of the most pivotal things that I didn't know until later. I know it meant something, but I didn't have the aptitude to know what it meant. A detective comes in after I'm in the holding cell, and he lets me know that guy lives. And before I make bail and everything, I got all my buddies waiting outside. I got this tough guy persona I got to keep up. He asked me, he goes, you just got one of the luckiest breaks I've ever seen. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? And I just let that question go by. And I have no clue. But I know that I can't tell anybody I'm afraid. I can't tell anybody deep down inside I'm scared. And I'm manifesting this violence to prove I'm not, but I am. And I got to keep up this image. And I make bail, and I go out, and all my buddies are there. And I feel ashamed of what I've done. I can never talk about that at that point. And I go to court, and there's a whole court system. I go off to court. The judge gives me one of the most gracious, I don't know if she saw something in me, but she gives me one of the most gracious sentences you can ever give, where she gives me a year conditional where all I have to do is stay out of trouble for a year. That's it. So all I got to do is keep my nose clean for a year, and they'll drop all the charges against me. And I can't even do that. I can't even do that. I'm in the street fighting again in like a couple months, and then that huge fight happens on New Year's Eve, and we get into a melee in the streets where people are unconscious and it's violent, and this guy says, if I see you again, I will kill you. And I'm like, that's my tipping point. That's it. I go, what am I doing? And man, at that point, I have $500 to my name, and I have a duffel bag with my clothes in it, and I buy a ticket. I call a buddy in California, and he allows me to come and sleep on his floor because they don't have any room. And that changed the trajectory of my life right there. I get on that plane, and as the miles pass underneath me, I feel like a weight of the world came off of my shoulders, because I didn't have to hold the image anymore of being someone I didn't want to be. And that's when it's a new birth for me.
So you come to California.
Yeah. And
then you tell a story in your TED talk.
Mm-hmm.
That you're in California, you're at a Denny's.
Yeah.
Okay, and we may not get into the Burger King story.
Right.
How old are you for the Burger King story?
This is while I'm on my conditional. I'm probably like 19.
Okay.
Probably like 19 at that.
Yeah. That was a crazy story.
It's a crazy story.
Calling 911.
I called 911 on myself. Yeah.
Okay. They got to read the book.
Hold on. You got to read the book. But you imagine being the operator at 911, and somebody says, what's your emergency, sir? I didn't get my double cheeseburger.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Crazy story. So you go to L.A., you have another situation.
Yes.
These guys cut you off, boom, take your parking spot. So there's still the anger there. There's still the frustration.
Yes.
When did that change?
It was gradual. The person that's in the car with me, okay, God rest his soul, he had his own challenges. He's passed away. He had drug addiction and everything. But he was a mentor to me. And he taught me about caring. He taught me, without telling me, he was teaching me about compassion. And so these people start wearing on me and seeing that there's other avenues to go, and there's more power.
How did he teach you compassion?
Yeah.
Because you're at that point, you're like, dude, I'm ready to go anytime.
Anytime. He taught me compassion by his actions.
Okay.
So the house I lived in was just this comedy, man. He was in AA, and he would give people new starts. We had a guy sleeping on the floor also whose name was Curtis, and we called it Curtis Corner. And Curtis had gotten out of jail and was trying to he had a meth addiction prior, and was trying to make a new life for himself. And I saw Jimmy Train, the name of the person that I was at his house, give him a job where no one would ever hire him because he had rotted teeth, and gave him a purpose. And that cycle would happen over and over, and I'd see people coming through the house. And so I watched this. And I would have probably said, if it wasn't for him, what is this loser doing here? I'm the loser, right? Not seeing that I'm a loser at that point, my actions. And so it was those kind of things that, even though he was imperfect, we're all imperfect, he was giving people a second chance.
That's powerful. So he was saving you.
Yep.
From the situation in New York, because that's your normal environment.
Yep.
You keep falling back into that. Come over here. At the same time, he's experienced his own problems.
Yep.
But he's still helping other people that have problems.
Yeah.
And so you see his kindness.
Yes.
You see his generosity, and I guess that was a conversion where you started to look at people as people. You started to care about them. What was that switch?
It started coming outside of myself, like everything was about me, or this happened to me because this fault or that fault. And I started owning my own stuff, and I could reflect and go, you know what, maybe you're sleeping on the floor here because you should be sleeping on the floor, and maybe you're here because of the stuff you did, and stop blaming other people.
How was that switch? Because most people, there's a victim mentality of like, this happened to me,
yep,
and it's not fair, so I'm going to take what I can take, or you know what, I feel bad for myself, you don't understand my situation. And most people never get out of that victimhoodness. What was that conversion for you to start being able to have that awareness?
There's a point in my life where I believe, was symbolic of me going from a boy that blamed other stuff to becoming a man and owning my stuff, whether it was wrong or right. I moved to California. I studied. I got a job. Jimmy gave me a job, landscaping. I'm digging ditches. I'm doing whatever I can to make money. At night, I'm bouncing at night. So I'm working day and night. In the middle of the day, for my lunch, I'm studying to be a trainer. I'm working my butt off in this positive environment. I end up getting food poisoning, E. coli poisoning. It wrecks me. I'm down. I go to the hospital. I lose like 20 pounds. I'm going through this struggle. When I recover from that, I take my trainer test. Okay, I go to San Diego State University. I take my trainer test back in the day where you studied out of a book. They didn't allow you to use a calculator. I take the test. I'm waiting for the results to come back over the course of weeks. I get in a car wreck where I'm driving down. I'm in anticipation of getting my training thing. I'm making flyers like personal trainer, all this stuff. And a water truck drives through a stop sign and hits me on the driver's side. I just got over having E. coli poisoning, all this, wrecks my car, totals me. I'm in a neck brace. I'm going to physical therapy. This is back in the day where there was MCI 18. People listening to this probably don't even know what that was, but it was night and weekends. I could only call home on night and weekends because it was 25 cents a minute. I had no money.
Wow.
My mom and my sister understand the situation. I'm laid back up. They send me a letter, and in that envelope are 2 checks. One is for $500 for my sister Gina, and one is for $300. That's a ton of money for me at that point. And I look at those checks, and I said, if I cash these checks, now this is right or wrong, this is just my life. I'm not saying you should do this. I'm not a man. I need to be able to make this on my own. I need to know if I can sink or swim on my own. It's tough right now. I got no food. I can't work. I'm laid up. I'm sleeping on the floor, but I'm going to do this. And if I can't do it, then maybe I'm not meant to do it, but I'm going to find out. And I have those checks to this day.
Brother.
I never cashed them.
Wow.
I have them in an envelope with the letter. And I feel like that moment,
that's powerful.
I went from a boy to a man, and I owned it.
You took ownership.
I owned it. And then I started owning other stuff in my life, and I can really say that was one of my lowest lows. I've experienced some lows in my life, but it just started gradually lifting up from there. Like when I started owning it, I was like, okay, I've been through that. I didn't use a safety net. I had E. coli poisoning. I was in a car wreck. I didn't have a car. I had to walk to work. I'm sleeping on the floor. Now I got a mattress. Things just started progressing. I was like, if I've gone through that, what else can I go through?
That's so powerful to have a perspective of the smallest victories, because some people are watching this and they're starting at zero or worse than zero, and it's like, man, it's going to take me so long to get out of this situation, and they're overwhelmed. And so to be able to have, that mindset of gratitude, of looking at these small little victories, that sometimes it's the only thing that keeps people going or keeps them sane. Or from, going the opposite direction of, alcohol and drugs and trying to get lost, from the pain. So you owned it, you start changing. And then what made you want to be a trainer? Like, what inspired you? Because you're still a trainer till today, 30 years later.
Yeah.
And so people don't do things for 30 years in life. What made you want to do it, and what's kept you in it?
Yes, that's a great question, man. What made me want to do it is I saw how it started changing my life, right? I went from this skinny kid that probably didn't have self-confidence to started getting some, and I saw the changes, and I was like, man, if I could do that and help other people do that, was my thought, okay? That gets me into it. And also, bro, my job when I was in New York before I left, while I was in college, I was catching shoplifters for $7.25 an hour. I had a gun pulled on me. I had to choke someone unconscious in intimate apparels for $7.25. Right? It was crazy. And so I'm like, I can actually make a living doing this. I don't have to choke anybody. I don't have to get a gun pulled on me. And so I was in the promised land. I was like, are you kidding me? My first client was $12 an hour, and I couldn't have been happier. And it was a girl who was dealing with a weight issue because she was trying to, she wanted to lose weight to impress this boy, and it was the wrong reason, but it drove her to do it. And I was like, so I got into it because of that. And then I found just such satisfaction in seeing people change. I saw myself in them, and I saw them looking to me for answers. And sometimes I didn't have the answer, and that was okay. But I had the willingness to find the answer or do whatever it took to help them. And it was more gratifying than anything that I had achieved myself, watching them achieve success.
That's powerful. So you found your first self-confidence in that for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It gave you pride, you know. And I think that I'm trying to get in shape for my boys and stay in shape. And I've always been overweight, so I'm just like, dude, I gotta. There's a limiting belief of like I can't, you know, look that way. I've never gotten that far, and so I've gotten trainers, done different things, and start, stop, you know. And it produces a lack of confidence, you know, in a person, in themselves, internal, right? Because that's where confidence is. And so you committed to this. You start finding confidence in yourself, belief in yourself, and then from there, you start being able to help other people find that in themselves. And that's the thing about your industry is that you can see change and you can measure results. You know, sometimes on the internal psychological part, you don't know. We coach people here, and I'm like, is it the progress of it? Is it happening? You know, and sometimes it does, and sometimes unfortunately people don't commit. I'm sure it's the same in your industry, but that's great that you found something to help other people and inspire them to be their best self. So you do that. You committed to it for 30 years. You're in California. How did you go from just being a trainer in training everyday people to training, you know, celebrities and other people you've worked with?
Yeah, this is a great question. Can I
please
hop back for a second?
Please.
So I found, man, what you said is such a key that I've found over working with thousands of people over I don't even know how many hours, right? Is when I have someone come through the door and they really, even though physically they aren't there yet, but they assume the identity of someone that is fit. That's where the transformation takes place. That's where I see the success. They assume the identity by meaning, this is what I do to be fit. This is what I do because I am fit, even though I'm not. And they started just this is like I eat a certain way. I do a certain thing because it's part of my life, because this is my journey for 30 years, whatever. And when you start assuming that identity before you're even there, your physicality will come and match your identity, your mentality. And when I see people that commit wholeheartedly to that and they go, okay, yeah, I might be 100 pounds overweight or 50 pounds overweight, or I have these aches and pains, but I'm going to start assuming all these things that people that are fit already have, like I'm there already, and they become second nature, and the habits that you adopt and create and do day in, day out, then make the transformation.
That's
because
powerful.
if you live with the fact that I've never been fit, I've never been in shape, or it's not going to happen, that stuff is in your mentality. You have got to own that. And when I see people own that, dude, the journey happens, the transformation happens. I know I'm all fired up here and everything, but in my mind, I'm thinking of the people that have made the transformation. They have that big why, and they make that transformation, and I get excited about it. I forgot your question.
It's all good
at this point.
No, it's all good. That's powerful. Do you bring that to your training? Is that like
100%?
Okay, because I've worked with different trainers, and the mental part of giving that person. See, we do that here, but I don't connect it to the training because that's not my specialty.
Right.
But the mental part here is we give people an identity.
Yes.
You know, and
you mean here at your work?
Yeah, at our business.
Yeah.
That identity of who you can be.
Yes.
You know, one of my guys, he just crossed $500,000 the other day, super powerful, because he started with $600 in his bank account. And the guys, Bruno Castillo today, him and his girl Gardenia, they just crossed $500,000. They got like $300,000-400,000 in savings. And his dad was a security guard. His dad worked at it wasn't a security guard. That's Pat's dad. But his dad got beat up at this store. And he's like, dude, my dad's going to die. And he's working at this place because they need the money. He's like, I got to change that. So he gets involved in our business, and he's horrible at this business. Like, he's a trainer. He's an athlete, by the way. He was a personal trainer. insurance sales. This guy's an athlete, like just not insurance guy. You know, I would see him talk to people on the street, and he was trying to like tell them about his business. He's like, hey, you know, it was like, bro, they're scared of you, bro. You know, you're a big dude. Like, don't do that. And to see his transformation, anything this guy's committed to, becomes the absolute best in the entire. Out of anybody I've met, he becomes the best at that the moment he commits to it. But I told him, everybody's like, what do you see in this guy? And I'm like, dude, he's making 1,000 calls a week. He's on 2 phones at the same time. He sucks, but his effort and his commitment, he's going to be one of the biggest guys in this industry, period. Not even in the company. So I start telling him that. And I'm like, I just want you to know, like, who you're going to be, you know? And I remember one day he comes to the house and he brings me a jersey, a Brazilian jersey with my name on it, because he's Brazilian and his dad's from Peru. And he look at him in the eyes, and I'm like, hey, what's up, man? And he's like, everything's good. And I'm like, what's up, bro? He just starts breaking down and crying. And he's like, I'm so overwhelmed, this, that, the other. And we sat there and we had a conversation. I'm like, you're going to be fine in this world, brother. You're a hard worker, boom, 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 boom. This identity, you know, that's what somebody did for me. And they just, like, I didn't believe in myself in this business. And Pat, the CEO founder, my mentor, said, you know, this is who I see you becoming. Like, nobody's ever said that. My mom said that to me, but I'm expecting my mom to say that to me. You know, my dad would say it, but it's like, those are your parents. But like that external, that giving somebody that identity, it's so powerful. And out of any trainer I've ever talked to or fitness, nobody helps people have that identity. It's more like, we're going to work out this, we're going to work out that. And it's like the how to, but the vision's not there. And I could tell, that's why I asked, do you do that for your...
Have to.
Okay.
I mean, you have to I look at it as I'm going to do everything and anything I can to ensure their success above and beyond. And if you don't understand the mental aspect of it, we're human beings. I don't care what realm you're in. You could be in insurance, you could be in fitness or whatever. You got to have that mentality to assume it. You know that your guy isn't going to be, and you're smart enough to know that he's not going to be as successful as he can in this industry, right? If he doesn't assume that identity, why would it be different? That athlete's mentality in fitness or in whatever, right? And so you have to have that. You have to have that. And that's where I feel like community and support and surrounding yourself with people that can uplift you and give you a different perspective is so important. It's so important because that one little thing, man, there's so many people in my life that gave me that one thing. And maybe I didn't hear it then. Maybe I didn't hear it at that moment, and it comes back, right? And I go, man, why didn't I listen to Erwin, you know, a year later? This is so... But it's that one thing. And it all starts. The most powerful thing we have is our mind, and it all starts with your mentality.
And that's what that person did for you. The gentleman that brought you from New York to California or invited you.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Jimmy Treen.
Jimmy Treen. That's what that was part of that. Hey, you can be better. You can know.
Yes.
You can change your life.
He started opening my eyes.
So I love that, by the way. That's super inspiring because I've never heard anybody give that identity to people. So it's powerful. And now the question was, how did you go from just training people to like working with celebrities? Was that your goal? Did you want to? Was it an accident? How did it happen? Why'd you stay in that industry for so long?
So it's just going to be crazy. It's all going to sound crazy. But I had aspirations of getting into show business myself. And I'm in Southern California. And at night, I start studying acting. I drive to San Diego at night. I start studying. I have dyslexia. I can't even read. Like they put me up to read something. I'm sweating buckets. It's like out of my comfort zone. And I said, I want to give this a go. Unbeknownst to me, my dad's still alive. It's a way to possibly guarantee he can't ignore me, right? Even though our relationship is better if I'm on TV. And so I moved from Temecula, California, Southern California, eventually to Hollywood, California. Now, I'll answer your question in the sense that I start training people because geographically, now I'm there, right? And I've always had the mentality that the most important person is the person in front of me right now. And I just started taking care of people that were in front of me right now. And now they are my billboard. And they are the biggest advertisement I can ever have. So when you're in shape or you're feeling great or your ailments are gone, you go tell somebody else. Well, some of these people are now agents or actors or celebrities, whatever it is. And they're next thing you know, my phone's ringing. And I don't even know how these people got my number because it's, you know, separated by 6 different levels of people. And that's how I started training celebrities. On the flip side, and you can cut in at any time.
No, go for it.
One of my dreams was to get into acting, and I do. I crack in there. I get out every soap opera.
Really?
Speaking.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Wait till you get into the book. I get on every soap opera there. I'm acting. I'm in a co-starring in a show called VIP with Pam Anderson. I end up, listen how crazy this is. How crazy this. We covered it. I'm 4'11" as a freshman. I got a cheesy mustache. My mom's cutting my hair. Literally, less than 10 years later, I'm the Dolce & Gabbana guy with Giselle. It's a freak of nature. And I'm on every billboard and an international thing with Giselle, okay? And I use that as an example because if that can happen, anything is literally possible. Anything is literally possible. The chances of me hitting the lotto twice are better than me modeling with Giselle, okay? This is truth. So I get into acting. It's where I meet Sebastian Maniscalco. We're both on Days of Our Lives. He's an extra. I have a little role on there. We hit it off. And talk about helping people. Love him dearly. He's a great friend of mine. We end up hitting it off. He starts getting success, and he hires me to be his trainer, okay? And I hook him up with some of my clients who do events and stuff like that so he can have jobs on the side because his stand-up comedy's not paying the bills. He's a waiter. He never forgets that, right?
It's powerful.
I introduce him to his wife, who's one of my clients. And they end up getting married, having kids and all that. And now he's never forgotten me. And now I go on international tours all over. I'm on tour with him right now, right? I'm on a 3-week hiatus right now. So how it pays back. I know it's a long-winded story. Sorry.
All good.
But I get into acting. I have success in it. And I start losing the luster of it. I say it, for me, it ended up being like a chocolate Easter bunny where it was all shiny and sweet on the outside and hollow on the inside. I didn't get satisfaction from it. I didn't get the satisfaction I got from helping people. I felt hollow. I'm like, okay, I'm standing there posing, the money's great, whatever, but I don't go to bed at night going, that was my purpose.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in a waiting room with a bunch of guys that look like me, and I'm not home with my wife and kids, and I want to be. And I go, this doesn't mean anything to me anymore. And I call my agents on the way home, and I tell them, I say, thank you for all you've done. You've been amazing. But I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm going to send lunch to the office tomorrow. And just out of gratitude, you guys have been amazing. And I make a decision on the 405 freeway and the 101 interchange stuck in traffic that I'm done. And it is crazy to me. God has always been in my life, even though sometimes I haven't seen it. Within, I think it's 36 hours, I get a call to be in a mini-series that I don't even have to audition for. It's a director that I've worked with twice before, and he wants to hire me with no audition as a supporting role in a mini-series, which is a good chunk of change. All I have to do is show up. And it is about God's life. It is about the apostles and God's life. And once again, I'm driving, and I look up, and I say, you son of a gun. He's testing me to see if I want to go back into entertainment. I just quit 2 days ago.
Wow.
And I call them back, and I say, listen, I was serious when I said that. I thank you. I never had an offer, ever. I had to fight and scratch for anything I ever had in that business. I said, if you would have called me last week, I would have been over the moon. But I decided that what my passion is, what I get satisfaction from, is helping people. And I'm going to turn this down. And maybe I'll regret it in the future, maybe I won't. But that's my decision. And that was when I left the entertainment industry, and I wholeheartedly focused on just training. And my business went through another level at that point. And I just felt like I became a better person.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you don't regret it?
At all.
That's
ever.
Powerful.
Not one bit.
Question, because you brought up your dad, and you're like, I wanted his attention. Did you, for the people that don't know the story, did you end up bridging that gap?
Yeah, so my dad and I, in his later years, my dad softened. Like, he was war-hardened, and he softened. We had some great moments, and he got to see me on TV, and he got to see me in all these things, and I saw him. We had conversations where never before we had communication. It was more like, you just do this because I'm telling you to. He respected my opinion, and all that. And so I had great closure with
That's
my
awesome,
dad.
bro. That's awesome. And do you feel like you had to go through that to achieve the goal, to find out what it was like for you to be able to say, hey, this is not what fulfills me?
Yeah. You know, I feel like I never wanted to look at it and go, I never gave that a try. I never went all out. If I do something, I'm all in. I don't do anything unless I'm all in. I don't do anything half-heartedly. Not always saying that's right, but I went all in, and I found out that it wasn't what I thought it was for me. It may be great for somebody else.
For sure.
And I go, hey, man, I did that. I'm not going to look back at 60 and go, I wish I did that.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah.
A lot of people live that way, you know? And I think it stems from a fear of like, I don't know if I can make it, and let me just not even try. Let me not pursue it out of fear.
Mm-hmm.
But then the fear lives in you, so it's like you're not getting rid of it, you know? Okay, so you said something powerful. You said, I'm going to be where I'm at, and the most important person in front of me. I remember I'm watching, my dad says, come here and watch this. And he was watching Oprah with some guy. Oh, man, I'm forgetting. He was, I don't want to call him a guru. He was like a mindset coach. And she says, who's the most important person in your life? And he says, you are. She starts laughing. Ha, ha, ha. He says, no, you didn't ask me who I love the most or care about the most. You asked me who's the most important in my life, person in my life. And at this moment, you are. And so I'm going to be where I'm at. So when you give the secret, I don't want to say the secret, but the tip of how you built your business to be, because some people want to be this, famous person, whether it's an actor, whether it's a business person, whether it's a trainer. I want to train celebrities. You weren't even, not saying you didn't have that aspiration to train celebrities, but you were just, I'm going to be the very best that I can be for this human being that's in front of me, and I'm going to transform their life, and I'm going to commit to them. And then that commitment to that individual produced that opportunity, instead of, I'm not going to be committed to this individual, I'm just going to chase the opportunity, and you don't ever get the opportunity because you weren't giving your very best to the people that were in your life at that moment. So that's powerful.
It's true. I'm sure you probably do that, right, in your business, and that's where you get the fruit from. Man, just going in without any expectations and just going in to really help someone. I've almost always found that I end up being the one that's helped the most. They give me some piece of knowledge. They give me love. People have not quit and have told me after. They were like, damn you, Petrelli. I wanted to quit so many times. I was tired. I didn't want to get up and come here, but I knew that you weren't quitting. And so it made me have another level where I'm like, I can't face him and make the phone call or even text you to say, I'm giving up.
Yeah.
And so I like, all right, I didn't know that was happening, but I'm excited.
That's cool,
Let's
man.
do this.
I want to, because I know we're short on time. I want to talk about what happened to you. So you guys moved here from California to Austin 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2021, you start feeling some numbness in your feet, your hands. This leads to you going to the hospital and finding out that you have GBS.
GBS.
Okay. And all of a sudden, a few days later, you're sitting in a hospital bed and you are completely paralyzed.
Yes.
You have two boys at that. You have two boys still, right?
Yes.
There's two boys. Your kids are at that time.
So
3
it's
years
2020, 122. The end. So they're 13 and 10 now. It's 3. So they were
10
8 and 10.
Okay.
Yeah, 10, 7.
So you got two little boys.
Mm-hmm.
You're their dad. You're married. You're strong physically. You're I think squatting 500 pounds or whatever was the number. Was that?
Yeah, back in the day, not
Okay.
at 50, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So you're this healthy person, and from one day to the next, you get diagnosed with this autoimmune disease that literally has you absolutely paralyzed, where the doctors don't know if you're going to come back from it. One of the doctors you mentioned even asked, like, have you considered how you're going to live your life if you don't come back? And can you share that story from going from I'm fully in control of my body, I'm healthy, to I have no control over my body right now, and how you got through that? What happened and how did you get through it? What advice would you give to other people that are going through that through your story?
100%. So at that time, I started feeling numbness in my feet, okay? And I keep stuff to myself sometimes, maybe too much, right? We got this warrior mentality. We're going to push through anything, but there's also one of my weaknesses, one of my flaws is asking for help. I love to be the person that gives help, and I feel less comfortable asking for help. So I don't even like to put myself in a situation where I'm asking for help. My wife loves me unconditionally, but I don't even tell her. My feet are numb. My hands start going numb. I'm grinding out, working every day, teaching jiu-jitsu, boxing, training. After like a week and a half, I wake up and I can't see. I can't read my phone, and I'm trying to pee and I can't pee. I break down and I tell her, we sit at the kitchen table. I said, babe, this is what's going on. And I have a bunch of work today, but when I get home, we're going to maybe go to urgent care. And she tells me, my wife, Cheyenne, who's my man, she's got my back. She's been always there for me. She is my yin to my yang. She said, no, baby, your little butt is going to go with me to the doctor right now. And I'm so grateful for that, because I don't know how this turns out if we do something else. And I feel like, I said it earlier, I feel like a AA battery that's just getting zapped of energy. They bring me in there. They start giving me tests. I can hardly squeeze someone's hand. I faint in there. I go unconscious. When I wake up, another doctor comes in. He's like, I don't want to scare you, but you might have MS or you might have Guillain-Barré Syndrome, GBS. I've never heard of it. I didn't know what it was. And they said, we're going to send you over to Baylor Scott White down the street. It's a mile down the street, where they have the ability to pull spinal fluid. They're going to do a spinal tap, and they're going to test for a protein in your spine to see if you have MS, GBS, whatever. And so we get there. By the time I get there, the numbness is now ascended up probably to my knees. I'm in a wheelchair because I can't stand. And so here, think about this ego, right? Here's a guy defined by fitness, defined by doing all these different things. That's physical. And now I can't even stand. They take my spinal fluid. By the time the test even comes back, it's ascending up to my waist, meaning I can't feel from my waist down. They check my reflexes, my knees, gone. The test comes back. They bring me up to the ICU on the next floor in a wheelchair, and I'm losing everything I have strength-wise. I said this earlier. I think it's important. I look all over. There are people who have been in auto accidents. There are people dealing with different stuff. I do not know what GBS is, but I make a promise to myself. You know, having this realization right now, maybe it's because I had made promises to myself earlier, like the check and stuff, but I make a promise I'm not going to complain.
Wow.
I'm not going to do any of that. I don't know how, but I'm going to find a way out of here. I'm not going to stop until I do. They push me down. They put me in isolation in ICU. And then I just keep getting weaker and weaker until I can't move anymore. And it's just me, my mind, my physicality's gone. And when the doctors come in, I can't even move my head to see who's coming through the door. There's a lot of stuff that happens in this 10-day period of being in the ICU. I told you I soil myself. It's very embarrassing. They have a catheter in me. Can't even pee anymore. Can't have solid foods. My wife, man, if you want some tips on how I made it out of here, I'll give people tangible tips, and my wife is a genius. I'm eating pureed foods. And told you earlier, not just to beat a dead horse, but the doctor, Rodriguez, comes in, and she tests me. Every morning she would test me, and she grabs my hand and says, can you squeeze my fingers? And I got nothing there. I can't squeeze anything. And she puts her hand on my knee, and she says, can you move your leg? And I can't move my leg. And she steps back and says, have you thought about what your life may be like if you can't move ever again? And I told her, with all due respect, I said, Dr. Rodriguez, this is not about me walking again. This is about my son Hunter, my son Rocco, having a dad that can play with them. This is not about me walking again. This is about my wife, who's had my back for 30 years, and me being there for her. And it was that sense of community outside of myself, my family, my friends, that I was fighting for. Where earlier in my life, when I got arrested, it was all about me. Why is this happening to me? And the community came together in such a way that I couldn't drive. My wife had 2 kids. She couldn't leave. They took me to physical therapy 5 days a week. I did another 2 on my own and never stopped. When I could only move this finger, that's all I moved. I didn't focus on not being able to move my other fingers. I said, I move this finger right now, and tomorrow I'm going to try to move my next finger. And I just, little, inch by inch, I tried to get up, I'd fall. My wife would get mad at me. I'd pick myself up, get back in a wheelchair, try, get up and fall. But I'm like, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop, and I'm grateful for every little thing I have right now because, yeah, I can move my finger now. Earlier, I couldn't do that. And so after 10 days, I'm wheeled out of there. And it's also, while I'm in the hospital, I get the inspiration for that book. And I'm like, there's so many things that I feel like other people can benefit from that I was ashamed of. I never told anybody I had been arrested. That happened when I was 18, 19. I harbored it inside. There's so many things I was embarrassed of that didn't serve anybody because I kept them in shame in myself. And I was listening to, here's 3 things I did, bro, okay, to help. And I think it can help anybody in any situation. I happen to believe in God. I'm Christian. I prayed. In addition to my praying, I had visualization. It's all I had. I visualized. I'm not taking away from the Western medicine. My doctors and nurses were amazing. They helped. But I visualized my body healing itself. I silently asked my body to heal itself, and then I started commanding it till I was like verbally saying, I need to repair my nerve endings, my myelin. I did that. If it did nothing, it kept my brain occupied to not go into a negative area, okay? Every day I did multiple times a day Wim Hof breathing, where I just was breathing and visualizing and praying. And then I filled the room with positive vibrations. Ziggy Marley was one of my clients and a dear friend for 20 years. For me, Bob Marley, Ziggy, it brings me to a certain place. I didn't care if people thought I was nuts. I said, we're playing that music 24/7 because I don't want to hear the beep of the heart monitor they had me hooked to or anybody moaning or suffering. I want to be in that state. So I breathed, I prayed. My wife, smarty pants, the food, and I want to do something about this, okay? Maybe someone listening can help us do something about this. Our caregivers, our doctors, our nurses, our patients, in their time of most need, we need them to be on top of their game, that are helping us. We need someone to heal in the hospital. You go to the cafeteria and there's chicken fingers and French fries and stuff that looks like it's been there for 3 days. How are you going to heal on a cellular level when you're feeding your patients or your doctors or your nurses Snickers bars?
Yeah.
I said, that ain't happening. My wife went home every day and pureed me because I couldn't swallow organic food, and I drank it. So I'm trying to heal on a cellular level. I'm trying to heal on a mental level, on a spiritual level. I have my music playing, and I'm like, man, I'm doing everything I can. Anything else happens is an added bonus. Once again, I'm not taking away from the doctors. They helped tremendously. But in 10 days, I got out of there in a wheelchair. And then I diligently worked 7 days a week where they were like, you need to do 2 to 3 days of physical therapy. I'm like, no, we're doing 7 days. 7 days. Every we're going to do it. 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 And sometimes it was the smallest bit of progress. And that's where I got the inspiration for the book. And I was like, man, people need to hear this because I've been in a dark place and people blessed me with inspiration. They blessed me with knowledge. They blessed me with little tips. They blessed, and I'm like, I need to take this stuff I was ashamed about and maybe bless someone to let them know they can do anything.
I got a couple questions. When you're in the hospital,
yes,
in your mind, you just got told you have this autoimmune that your body's shutting down. At that very moment, people are like, dude, I'm going to die. What if I die? What if this goes on? How did you control your mind? What did you tell yourself?
I never thought, it's to a fault, I never think I'm going to lose. I might lose, but I never think it. And so I immediately start, my wife listens to this, she can tell you this is true. You tell me a problem, I start thinking of a solution. Instantly. She's like, sometimes I just need you to listen. Just listen to me, baby. And so I had a problem I didn't know anything about, and I immediately started thinking of how I can solve it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you think the way that you were raised with your dad in terms of just being solution focused instead of problem focused, although at that time it was just a command, ended up building your mindset to that way? Yes.
Everything I went through in that book, you'll see I fell in the ocean in Alaska in the freezing waters by myself at 11 o'clock at night. And I made it back. I was arrested. I had so many faults. I was perfecting the art of failure for friggin' 30 years. I was perfecting the art of failure. And the reason that stuff had to happen in my mind is because it prepared me for the day that I was paralyzed. Because if my life was soft, I was milquetoast, I would have been crushed underneath that. So all those things that I was ashamed of, that were like, I failed at that. When the time came, they served me because I was like, man, I've been through such
powerful.
adversity. Let's do this.
That's powerful. When you're there, you're in the hospital, and I was going to ask you, that was going to be one of my last questions. What made you want to write the book? So when you're in the hospital and you're like, I can't move right now, were you thinking like, man, there's things I got to like share with my children. There's things I got to share with the world. Like, I need to write this book so I can get it out in case one day I can't get it out or I'm not here or so that other people could benefit from it. Was that when the book came?
Yes, it's there. That's exactly it. And it's so crazy. I listened to an audiobook from a friend of mine that was in the jiu-jitsu world. My friend Richard Bressler, one of the first guys to do jiu-jitsu in America. And I said, man, I got to contact him. I love his book. It's inspirational to me. And see how he did this. In my head, I'm thinking all this. Dude, I contact him. He puts me in connection with the guy that I can't write anything. I have dyslexia. I write stuff on a computer. They're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. And that guy ends up teaming up with me and being my co-author and guiding me how to do a book. It's like these things are placed in our presence. And if we take the initiative to go and do them, no matter how crazy they are, crazy to think I modeled with Giselle, crazy to think I did all these things, crazy to think I could write a book. And it's sitting next to you.
Yeah. And I saw you on the TED Talk. I'm sure your kids like, that's my dad.
I didn't let them see that, man.
I'm sure they have by now. That's so cool, bro. How long did it take you to heal fully? Like, are you fully healed now?
So I was out of work for 3 months. I didn't go to work for 3 months. I would say I got probably in 3 months of getting out of the hospital, I was probably 70% back.
Okay.
And that's 7 days a week doing that. I still have numbness in my feet. And if it never comes back, so be it. I feel like it's a reminder to always be grateful that my feet are numb. And so
24/7 numb, or it just comes and goes?
My kids have fun. They poke me with like needles in my feet and stuff. And I'm like, I can't feel it.
And that's something you live with the rest of your life?
I could. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
So you just, well, I'm saying, is that something that once you're healed from it, you don't have any symptoms outside of the
Yeah, it could or couldn't. I'm just as likely or unlikely to re-get it as anybody else. So I'm back in the pool of 1 in a million.
Got it.
Yep.
So congratulations on that. God bless you. I'm sure you bless a lot of other people through your story of healing and recovery. There's other questions I want to ask, but I want to wrap up out of respect for time. I've met a lot of people. You're in that world of celebrities. We were just at Sebastian's show that he did here at the Moody Center.
Were you here?
Yes.
I'm the guy that walks him out the stage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you were at Moody Center?
Yeah, my wife, we took a couple of our guys. His dad reminds me of my dad.
Salvatore.
So just his stories are hilarious. But I love how humble you are, and so I want to end on that question. You've been around Hollywood. You've been part of these most famous shows and billboards and celebrities. What keeps you grounded to just be so humble, just down to earth guy?
We're all human. When I got into the inner work, I learned about celebrity. I learned about being in a movie and all that stuff. And we all have the same problems. It doesn't matter what your title is, whether it's podcast guy or insurance or accountant or whatever. We're all human beings.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful. And I understand that I have a purpose here in this world, and it's to help people. And so I want to learn. I know I don't know everything. And so I find I learn better from a humble position of, man, I'm always a student. And so I just think, that my faith and my family ground me. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
And what would you say drives you now? Is it that? Just the desire to help more people? Is that what your driving force? Because you've done a lot in your life. So what at this point
drives me?
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story. I've never told anybody a story. It just happened. Okay? I'm with Sebastian in San Francisco. And he does a lot of stuff that no one knows about for charity and everything. And a guy comes backstage that has terminal brain cancer. Him and his wife.
Wow.
And Sebastian greets them in the dressing room with them. And they drove from Wisconsin 31 hours to San Francisco to see him. And the guy was so grateful. He's like, listen, man, this is so tough, but the way you make me laugh makes me forget things, and I'm so grateful for the laughter. And after that meeting is done, we ask him, Sebastian asks him, he goes, why didn't you just, I'm coming to Wisconsin in 2 months. Why didn't you just see me there? And the guy goes, I don't know if I'll be alive in 2 months, so I need to do everything I can now. And I walked that gentleman back to his seat. I think his name was Jeff, and we had a little talk. And I came to realize that we all have a terminal illness, and it's called life. And we just don't know the date. And maybe Jeff knows he's got 2 months, and he's doing everything he can in that 2 months to enjoy life, to love people, to help people, to laugh. But no one gets out of here alive. So why are we living like we're going to be here for an eternity? So I just want to help as many people as I can, because life is terminal, and I want to bring joy and help as many people as possible.
That's awesome, bro. I love that. And you can feel it. So thank you for being on today.
Yeah.
Guys, Confessions of a Hollywood Trainer, and you did one for teens.
Yes.
A teen edition that's
Yes.
Somewhat a little bit more PG.
It is. Yes.
Okay.
My passion is kids. I want to help kids so much, and I wanted to give them something that I can be proud that they would read and get some life lessons.
Yeah, I thought the way you spoke to the kids was super relatable. You know, the way you communicate, the way you told your stories. There's so much anxiety. You talked about anxiety,
Yeah.
fear, shame, guilt. The kids need to hear that kind of stuff because people aren't talking about it, but they're dealing with it. So it's great to meet you. Look forward to building a friendship with you.
Same.
And congratulations on all your success.
Thank you for having me, having a platform where we can deliver this message, and look forward to being in touch with you beyond this.
My pleasure. So we'll put your contact info in the
Yeah.
podcast everywhere. So guys, I hope you got some value from it. Share this with people that you think could benefit. Get the book. There's so many great people out there that have amazing, powerful stories. And I love what we're doing with the podcast because we get to meet some really special people. So we'll see you on the next episode. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.